Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. There are some things on which we should agree. Others which we can discuss and come to an agreement. Others maybe in which we can never agree on and therefore must agree to differ. That Zimbabwe's elections are not free, fair, and credible, and that nothing can be achieved. We can never achieve free, fair, and credible elections without implementing the democratic reforms necessary to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections, is one of those issues where we should by now have agreed on. The 2008 elections were a watershed in Zimbabwe's electoral history. SADC offered the nation a wonderful opportunity to implement those democratic reforms to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. We did not implement any reforms. Why that is so difficult for some people to comprehend beggars belief. Here is Professor Jonathan Moyo. I may differ and disagree with him on many issues, but on this occasion, we cannot deny that he is spot on. Zimbabwe cannot hold free, fair, and credible elections without meaningful reform. And here he is explaining one of the ways why the electoral process in Zimbabwe is so flawed, the results is a foregone conclusion.
Chigumba is the mother of the rigging, and Malaba is the father of the rigging, endorsed what the mother was doing. It is actually scandalous. You see, ZEC is not supposed to be controlled by any authority.
Yeah, it's supposed to be independent.
It is an independent constitutional body. In fact, independent commission. It's a Chapter 12 institution. But ZEC did not run anything important. It never did. The computers were run by Africom. The registration, accreditation, and so forth were run by a CIO company. So between the CIO and the army, they ran the processes, the operations, using their instruments. Either Matsanga, who is actually active, she's employed. She joined she was seconded to the electoral body in 2008 as a divisional intelligence officer. Now she is a director in the CIO. As we speak right now, she's a director, and she was congratulated and rewarded for rigging the 2018 election, and she was given a house in Borodale, a posh mansion in there. So there is a serious problem that whereas on paper ZEC is supposed to be an independent constitutional body that runs elections transparently, efficiently, and impartially. No, it doesn't. It doesn't because it does not even itself run. The elections are run for ZEC by the securocrat.
We had election observers, and they've consistently told us that the election process in Zimbabwe is flawed, and in some cases gave us a list of reforms that will help make those elections free, fair, and credible. We had SADC in the AU election observers in 2023, and they've condemned the process as flawed and illegal. Here is Professor Nevas Mumba, who was the chairperson of the SADC election observer mission in Zimbabwe in 2023.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, let me be clear that the changing of any dynamic or situation in any of our African countries is a preserve of the citizens of that country, in this case, the Zimbabwean people. An election observation team goes there to support the process by observing and being able to release a statement of our observations that, for instance, in Zimbabwe, we raised several issues of transparency and also the independence of the Electoral Commission and things which happen in many other countries, you know. But at the end of the day, once we produce the report and make it available to the Zimbabwean authorities and eventually to the Zimbabwean people, it really remains the preserve of the Zimbabwean people to fight for the freedoms that they need themselves and to correct those issues that have been observed. The reason why we have multiple observation missions is to ensure that, you know, there is a comparison, you know, taking place between the SADC report and the European Union report, the African Union report, and then they can see that those issues that repeat themselves in all these reports, it's up to the Zimbabwean people. And this is where I appeal to all political leaders, not only in Zimbabwe, especially the elections that are coming in Mozambique, they're coming in South Africa, in DRC. We have to make up our minds that, look, at the end of the day, once the people in the country are given an opportunity to monitor the elections, because they also monitor, it starts not during the day of the elections. They must make sure that the constitutional lacunas that can affect a good election are dealt with months before the election. And they must fight to ensure that there's a level playing field. They should never wait for the time when the election is taking place. They must also insist that the electoral commissions and the governments in those countries abide by international norms in holding democratic elections. And this fight must be more vicious before the election comes.
In Zimbabwe, we didn't do that. We participated in the 2023 elections because millions believed Samisa's lie that he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. Triposi was going to win big. Of course, he was lying. Even when SADC and the AU had condemned the 2023 elections as flawed and illegal, all those Chamisa Triple-C candidates who had won the few gravy train seats went up to take them up. Thus undermining SADC and the AU. Because we cannot deny the fact that if we keep participating in these flawed elections, it's not for SADC to come and say to us, don't participate. They've advised us. But if we don't want to listen to the advice, SADC has got to accept that as the reality. Those, yes, Chamisa and has walked out of the Triple-C. But we know that the opposition leaders out there are still participating in flawed elections. And in this case here, cheered on by well-known cheerleaders like Change Radio. There's a by-election tomorrow. And our cheerleader, Change Radio, is the one that posted this individual who is campaigning for the votes in that by-election. We have to listen to ourselves, to our friends, if we are ever going to get out of this situation.
Nkulumane omuhle sesibuyile njalo igama nguRodney Donovan Jele sicela ukuthi kusasa wonke umuntu asukume umuntu enkulumane wonke umuntu oregistileyo ukuvota enkulumane sisukume ngobuningi bethu sihambe nini siyevota ekhethweni lukhona kusasa livote ku number 2 your independent candidate Rodney Donovan Jele nyabe ku number 2 ku ballot paper sicela lusekelo lwenu sicela amavoti yenu siyabonga.
Well, the tragedy is, as long as we keep participating in these flawed elections, we are sending a clear message that we don't need the reforms to be implemented. As much as some people will complain at the end of the day that the elections were rigged, those complaints are just talking. You cannot keep on complaining that elections are rigged when you are the one who keeps participating in those elections, knowing fully well that ZANU is rigging, knowing fully well that if you participate, you give ZANU legitimacy. Of course, Chamisa and company are doing it knowingly, because they also know that ZANU is giving away a few Gravitrans seats, and this they cannot resist. I think if we are being realistic, we have to be honest with ourselves and accept that Chamisa and company will continue to participate in these flawed elections. Cheerleaders like Change Radio will cheer them along, knowing fully well that the election process is flawed, knowing fully well that by participating, we are only giving ZANU legitimacy. But they will soldier on because they are after the few Gravitrans seats that ZANU is giving away to entice the opposition to participate. It is up to us, the people, to wake up and see that reality. Wake up and smell the coffee. The people of Zimbabwe should stop participating in these flawed elections. They should stop being so easily conned by Chamisa and company to participate in flawed elections only to perpetuate their own suffering. That is not rocket science. After 45 years of rigged elections, it is disappointing that that message is not filtered through. These people are participating today. They will be participating come 2028. And we are back to where we started. After 45 years of rigged elections, we still do not have the common sense to know that until we implement the reforms, ZANU-PF will continue to rig elections and stay in power. SADC, the AU, have given us the best advice. Do we have the common sense to finally take that advice? Food for thought.